Something interesting has been happening over the last few weeks. We've been talking about suicide on STP, and we've actually had a lot more people joining the conversation. And it's been interesting because I'm surprised at how much pushback there has been against some of the things that I've brought up. People first upset that I'm talking about suicide, people that blaming people that have attempted to take their own lives. Uh, in essence, it has shown me that stigma still exists and that we have, as a community, have got a long way to go when it comes to the conversation around suicide. Yes, it's emotional. Yes, it's painful. But I think that unless we speak truth, we aren't going to be able to do anything about this incredibly fixable problem, this plague of suicide. Today, I want to talk about the fact that there is life after suicide. There is ways to rebuild your life once you've taken that decision to give up and to make an attempt to end your own life. We're going to talk about that today on STP. Welcome to Shattered the Podcast. STP is the story of my journey from the depths of mental illness to a place where I could live again. So I want to dive right into this one. It's an important subject because, well, first off, let's get into the mindset of a person that has attempted to take their life. Essentially, and in all practical ways, they've given up. They've said, life, the universe, everything is too hard. I can't do it. It's not worth it. I'm never be able to move forward. So I'm just going to end it all. When they have survived, when I survived, I realized eventually that I was going to have to rebuild my life. You don't necessarily lie in that hospital bed after an attempt and go, I now know what to do. I certainly didn't. I went through months of agony, years of further trauma, of trying to deal with the fact of what I'd attempted to do, the fact that it hadn't worked, and the fact that life was going on. So the question that I've asked is there life after a suicide attempt? Now, the short answer is yes. Yes, there absolutely is. But I need to unpack that with you today, and I'd love to get your comments. I'd love to hear what people think about this because I don't pretend that I'm the be all and end all of this conversation. I'm just another voice like you. I'm just another person that's trying to have this conversation. So, life after suicide. Well, a lot happens in that entirety of that journey that you take when you attempt suicide. First off, you've given up. Uh, Pain is too much, it hurts too much. There's uh, no sign that you will ever be able to get better or better than you are. And it seems hopeless and helpless. So you give up. And think about what you're giving up on. If you're like me, you're a man, you're giving up on work, you're giving up on supporting your family, you're giving up on being a father, you're not just giving up on life, you're giving up on everything that's included in that life. Now, once you've made the attempt and survived, what happens? How do you move forward? There's a couple of interesting things that I want to share from my experience. I was lying in the ambulance. I called it a hospital car a couple of weeks ago because I couldn't remember the word ambulance. I was in the hospital car, lying there covered in pepper spray. I'd been subdued by cops during my suicide attempt. I'm lying on the gurney, and something in my mind changed. I realized that I did not want to die. I did not want to be in the ground or in a urn. I just wanted the pain to stop. And more than that, I wanted to be at home with my wife, not doing anything, not expecting anything of her. I just realized that my life was most happy when I was just at home hanging out with my wife. Now, I had committed the ultimate betrayal of my wife. I had uh, broken our marriage contract. I promised to love her for the rest of my life, for better, for worse, through richer, for poorer, illness and sickness and in health. And I had gotten sick. I had been damaged and I had broken that contract. I had left our marriage. I hadn't committed adultery, but I had, in essence, said, I don't want to be anything anymore. I don't want to be married to you. And that's not what I was thinking, but that's what my actions were saying. I'm lying on the hospital bed, not even able to articulate this in words, but all I wanted to do was be at home with my wife. I did not want to die. And the thing about that is it gave me a voice to challenge the suicidal ideation later on down the track. So the suicidal ideation would come and I would be trying to combat it um, with logic, and I couldn't until I was lying on that hospital bed. There's a dude that attempted to take his own life by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. He survived, barely. Uh, had to go through lots of physical therapy. He had to, he injured himself horrifically. But when he came through it, there was something that happened in that attempt that he was really surprised about. And this particular thing, he wondered if other people had thought it. So what he did is he contacted as many of the people that he could of people that had survived a suicide attempt after jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. There's been like 19 people that have survived. And the ones that were left alive, he wanted to know if his experience was the same as theirs. And his experience was this: the moment he left the point of no return, the moment his hand left the bridge, or his foot, I'm not going to try and tell his story because it's not mine to tell, but the moment he was at the point where there was no turning back, whether he jumped, whether he hung there, whether he leapt over using his hands, at the point that he realized that this is going to happen, it was at that moment that he realized that it's not what he wanted. He realized that he'd made a mistake. Now, of all the other people that he spoke to the best of my knowledge, each and every single one of them had the same thought. It's not that they were um, after attention or that they were trying to do something that they knew they would survive, because they didn't. The you know of the I think it's 3,000 people that have jumped off, 19 have survived. It's not very good odds. Yet each and every one of them at the point of no return during that fall. Now, in most suicide attempts, we don't have that period of time between the point of no return and the end. These people are in a very unique situation. And he was stunned to find that they all felt the same as him. As soon as they hit that point of no return, they realized that it's not what they wanted. I mean, think about that. Their whole life has seemed to be impossible. They felt that they had nothing to go on for, to live for, to look forward to. Now, nothing had changed in that millisecond. Nothing had automatically become different. They hadn't gotten fixed. They just realized in that moment that it's not what they wanted. Now, that is transformational when it comes to life after suicide. When I realized that I didn't want to die and it was on the way to the hospital, Well, I didn't know where I was going. Thought I was going to prison. Um, didn't know what was happening. Didn't know where I was. I just knew that I wanted to be at home with my wife, and that transformed my thinking. Now, I don't know what your particular journey was. I don't know what your friends, your daughters, your fathers, your mothers' journey was when they attempted suicide. What I do know is that my suicide attempt gave me a reason, something that I wasn't expecting, that allowed me to combat those thoughts going forward. I would like to do a survey, but how do you do it? You've tried to commit suicide. How do you feel now? Everybody that speaks in my organization that I volunteer with, everyone that speaks that has attempted suicide is glad that they're still here. Every single one. I am glad that I'm still here. I did not understand some of the repercussions of my decision. I couldn't because I was in too much pain emotionally. But now I have a fuller understanding of what it was that I was giving up, what it was that I was robbing my children of. I think of the fathers that I hear of that take their own lives, and I have to tell you, it doesn't make sense to me now. Now I think of a father committing suicide over, say, money issues, something like that. I don't. It's hard to comprehend because money seems so inconsequential to the possibility of that relationship, that the fact that you are in their lives. Now, the sad thing is that many, many people attempt suicide every single day. And there's some people that will not be able to rebuild their lives. But the fact of the matter is that I can promise you is that there is life after a suicide attempt. Often it can be a catalyst for change. Often it can be the deciding factor. The fact that you are still alive. It's like, okay, well, I'm still here. It allows you to take stock rationally. Suicide is always horrible. Suicide should never be somebody's choice. But the fact of the matter is that while we don't talk about this stuff, while we stay silent about it, people aren't getting an informed choice. People aren't understanding the full ramifications of what suicide will do to the people that are left behind and what it can do to you, physical damage that you can do to yourself. There is life after a suicide attempt. It's hard. It's a long road. It's never easy, but life happens after a suicide attempt. If you love somebody and they've tried to take their lives, like somebody I have in my life, I don't view them through that one action. I don't think of them through that one decision that they made. That was a choice. That was a moment in time. Now, my main concern is, are you safe? And what can we create? What can we do to give you things to look forward to? There is life after a suicide attempt. Hey, I want to thank you for being part of the discussion. If you're still with me, please like, subscribe. The channel is growing, which I'm loving. But again, like I always say, I don't care if this only gets out to one person. If that one person might make a better decision than I did. Hey, have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for joining us on Shattered the Podcast. I'm Mark. Special thanks to my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also to Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And we can't forget the amazing band Adelaide, who let us use their song as our theme. For more information, check us out on all your socials, STP Shattered the Podcast.